Walters Sports Bar is available for private events. Visit waltersdc.com/private events for more information.
Do you hear that? That sound, right? That means that summer's officially here. It means that grown adults just sprint into the street for a frozen dessert shaped like a cartoon. But this summer, Mint Mobile has a better treat. Every plan, including unlimited, is $15 a month. And unlike ice cream, it won't drip down your wrist or look nothing like the picture. Does anyone have any cash? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. New customer offer for initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a fly ball hit well by Seager, deep left field. Back is Pinckney's out the wall, leaping. He can't get it. It is gone. A home run. An opposite field home run for Corey Seager, about 10 feet to the right of the 372-foot marker. And the Rangers on the board first here in the bottom of the third. It's Texas 1 and Washington nothing.
It all comes down to this matchup. Latz is ready. The 1-2 to Tana. Strike three called. Tana's going to challenge. For the moment, the game's over.
Batter is challenging the strike call.
Can't take the challenge with you to Miami. We'll see. We look out at the video board. The call's confirmed. The game is over. And the Texas Rangers win 2-0.
Even if we had our A lineup out there tonight, I think that just deGrom being who he is and who he's been in this league for a long time, as we saw tonight, he's really good. So we knew we were going to have to scratch and claw and do everything we could to push runs across, and unfortunately just couldn't get much going tonight.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. We are in the year 2026. We are not in the year 2018, but you wouldn't know that given what happened at Globe Life Field on Thursday night. The Nats got deGrom. You know, there are some athletes who earn the right to have their names used as verbs. Jacob deGrom is one of those people. A 2-0 Nats loss at the Texas Rangers on Thursday night to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The Nats now are just 6-15 over their last 21 games, have gone from 55-53 to 61-68, and now have a run differential of plus 17. The Rangers now 63-65, run differential minus 46, and yet are tied with the Minnesota Twins for the American League's third of 3 wildcard spots. We have a new twist in the C.J. Abrams situation. He's injured. Turns out that he suffered a sprained left ankle in the top of the ninth of the Nats' 6-0 win at the Rangers on Wednesday night. Him not being in the Nats lineup when it came out on Thursday afternoon did make you wonder if maybe something was up. Maybe he was being disciplined by the team for slow playing this move from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. But no, Abrams is legitimately injured. When he will actually start a game as a second baseman, who the heck knows? But, you know, you look at the Nats lineup for this game at Jacob deGrom and the Rangers on Thursday night, a lineup without C.J. Abrams, a lineup without outfielder James Wood, who remains on the 10-day injured list, a lineup without the likes of infielder Curtis Mead and at first baseman Luis Garcia Jr., those two long gone via the Nats, trading them in the lead up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline. Your top 4 Nats batters this season, right? Wood, Abrams, Garcia, Mead, not in effect on Thursday night. And the results, Mark, were not pretty. This was a very ugly offensive outing for the Nats.
Ugly and sadly probably pretty predictable when you knew what the situation was and who they were facing and who was left in this shell of a lineup. It's hard to believe. If somebody had not followed this team all year and you saw the lineup that they put out there on Thursday, and then you tried to convince them that this is the highest scoring team in baseball, I'm not sure how many people would have believed you, because it didn't look like it on paper, and it certainly didn't look like it in practice. Credit to deGrom, who even at 38 and even after all the injuries that he's dealt with in his career, when he's healthy, he's still really good. And so credit to him for that. But boy, there were not a lot of very competitive at-bats in this game. Brady House is the only one out of everybody who looked like he had a clue what he was doing up there, and that involved a single and 2 walks. So it's not like anybody really put anything of quality together against him.
And the single, the only Nats hit of the game. Like, there literally is not much to discuss here about the Nats offense. The Nats as a team, no runs, 1 hit, which was a single, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, 15 strikeouts. The Nats Did draw 4 walks, but yeah, the Nats struggled against Jacob deGrom, who in his age 38 season tossed 6 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He became the 95th player ever to record at least 2,000 career MLB regular season strikeouts. And you look at deGrom in this regular season, 24 games, all starts, ERA 3.77, WHIP 1.13, a strikeouts per 9 innings of 11.16. The peak of Jacob deGrom was like 2018 through 2021, somewhere in there. He, this season, in a lot of ways, is looking like peak deGrom, especially when you consider the strikeouts per 9 innings at 11.16. It is remarkable what he's doing. He's almost 40, and yet he's striking out more than 11 players per 9 innings.
You know, we've seen so many great pitchers of this generation get hurt, and then they're never the same after that. I mean, Steven Strasburg, the most glaring example of that, but there have been plenty of others who were kind of on a Hall of Fame track, and then injuries just derailed it, and they were never the same again. And I think what's so unique about deGrom, he's dealt with all of those major injuries that the other guys had. He's had a whole litany of them, but he keeps coming back from them and looks as good as ever. And okay, maybe he's not the absolute peak version of himself at 38, but he's still awfully good. As you said, the strikeout numbers are still really high. He puts a few more guys on base than he used to, but he is still incredibly effective. And you could see, I mean, he was toying with some of these hitters, these young guys who'd never faced him before. You know, Brady House even acknowledged that, like, growing up, this is somebody he watched pitch, and he thought about earlier in the day on the way to the ballpark, like how cool this was going to be that he'd get to face Jacob deGrom.
Honestly, I just think it was awesome, you know, like before you get to the field, just kind of knowing who he is and what he's done is just kind of special.
Now, once the game starts, you're not thinking that. You're just facing whoever the pitcher is on the mound, and he did have some success against him. But most of these guys in the lineup for the Nationals tonight probably grew up watching Jacob deGrom and saw a very close to that version of him in the big leagues that they used to see when they were kids growing up.
Jacob deGrom was drafted by the New York Mets. He was taken in the 9th round of the 2010 MLB first-year player draft out of Stetson University of Florida. Now, I think an interesting conversation, not to turn this into a Jacob deGrom show, but you're a voter for the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Is Jacob deGrom a Hall of Famer? Like you said, he's missed a lot of time due to injury. Doesn't necessarily have the volume that you want to see, like his career wins above replacement per Baseball Reference coming into Thursday is 47.1. Usually want career WAR around 60 if you're going to talk about a guy being eligible for the Hall of Fame, if you're going to talk about a guy being worthy of being voted into the Hall of Fame. But the rate stats for Jacob deGrom are superb. Again, coming into Thursday, career ERA of 2.67, career ERA plus of 1.46, career strikeouts per 9 innings, 10.8. Career whip of 0.999. I think this is going to be an interesting case. Jacob deGrom, does he get voted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame?
It's going to be a fascinating case and really a case study on how the evaluation of pitchers has changed over generations. I think you know, and anybody who's followed me over the years knows my Hall of Fame voting, that I have a pretty high standard. And my thing with pitchers has always been, it's not just good enough to be dominant, but you have to have done that for a very long time. I want excellence and I want longevity as well. The problem is there just aren't that many anymore who meet those criteria. You're going to have the big three, Clayton Kershaw, who's now retired, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, who are close to retiring. Those are slam dunk cases. But after that, you get into these kind of guys who were fantastic, maybe not as long as the others were. And I do think we as voters maybe do have to start lowering that bar a little bit and recognizing that in today's world, it's really hard, if not impossible, for pitchers to sustain that for 15 plus years the way that they used to. And so as a voter, like, I did not initially vote for like Johan Santana falls in that category, Felix Hernandez. I did last year change my vote on Felix, kind of recognizing that the standard has changed for pitchers, and being the best pitcher in the game for 5 or 6 years may be good enough now because you're just not going to find guys who are better than that. And so deGrom is going to have a strong case, and the fact that he has come back from his injuries and is still effective late in his career should help as well. We'll see. It's going to be a while until that one comes up, but you can't argue that, like, when you think of this era, the 2010s and 2020s, you're saying who are the best pitchers in baseball? Jacob deGrom is on that list, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I do think rate stats matter a lot. Like, volume is great, and you do need some volume, but if you have exemplary rate stats, especially like what deGrom has, boy, it's hard to ignore those. It's hard to say this guy's not worthy of making the Hall of Fame. But we'll see. Maybe deGrom pitches another, 2 or 3 years, maybe more. You never know with somebody like this. All right, C.J. Abrams, he is actually hurt. I texted Mark late Thursday afternoon / early Thursday evening. I said, just to be sure, this is legitimate, right, that C.J. Abrams is injured. And I'll read to you what Mark wrote back to me. New phone, who dis? No, just kidding. Mark didn't write that. Mark gave me a legitimate answer. He said, yes, C.J. Abrams is in fact injured. The timing is so wacky, but, that's how sports can be. And, of course, now this furthers the question of when will C.J. Abrams actually start a game at second base? This is unbelievable what's happening. This is becoming quite the saga. Friday marks 1 week since Blake Beeter made the declaration during his pregame session with you guys that the Nats are moving Abrams to being primarily a second baseman. He still has not started a game as a second baseman, and now we don't know when he might start a game as a second baseman.
I mean, it's going to be at least a few more days until it happens because he's not playing at the moment. And yes, the injury is legit. If anybody hasn't seen it, go back and watch the replay of his double in the top of the ninth, leading off the top of the ninth on Wednesday night. It's a bang-bang play at second base. Now, he didn't slide on it, and if he had, this may not have become an issue. He goes in standing up right as the tag's being applied, and if you watch, you can see his left ankle gets turned really bad as he's hitting the base, so much so that that foot hops up in pain, and he has to now step on the base with his right foot. And that's why the Rangers actually challenged that play. And there was a little bit of a delay to see was the glove ever touching him when he was not actually in contact with the base. The call stood, and he wound up being safe there. And because it was the ninth inning, he didn't advance past second. He played the bottom of the ninth in the field, didn't really think too much of it. But he woke up on Thursday morning, and it had swelled up on him and was in some considerable pain. I watched him walk through the clubhouse Thursday afternoon after the lineup had come out, but before we had talked to Blake Beeter to find out what was going on. And I noticed he was limping. So it is legit. Now, they took x-rays on him. They're negative, so that's good.
Just kind of day to day. We don't really know yet. I'll see the doctor today and potentially get some imaging. But, yeah, sprained ankle and day to day.
But he did not do any baseball activities on Thursday. Blake Beeter said probably won't be able to play on Friday. I mean, he's now getting on a plane to fly to Miami with the team, which can't be real comfortable with a swollen ankle. Probably not playing Friday. The hope is he could be back Saturday. But if he is, are you just going to immediately throw him at second base? He hasn't gotten any work there the last few days. I could see a day as a DH maybe. Maybe that gives him a chance to work a little bit in the field, and then maybe by Sunday. But we could easily be talking about sometime next week before this is finally done and he's actually playing second base. You wish somebody had come up with this script. They didn't. This is all legit the way that it's happened, and it has not gone anything according to how they intended this to go.
And you wonder if he does wind up on the 10-day injured list, then what when it comes to this transition to being a second baseman? Now, right now, it sounds like, the idea is that he's not going to need to go on the 10-day IL. But as you and I know, a prognosis for a Nationals injury can change. And so we shall see. The other thing is the Nats off enjoying this outstanding injury luck for position players for so much of this season. Now have James Wood on the 10-day injured list, and who knows when he'll be back. And now C.J. Abrams is hurt. It's amazing how the baseball gods can, change your fortunes like on a dime. And it feels like that has happened to an extent here with the Nats. But just to be clear, the thought right now is that he will not need to go on the 10-day IL, right?
That is the thought for now. Day to day, as we know, sometimes day to day can stretch 3, 4, 5 days, and it gets to a point you say, well, hang on, now we need to actually make a move. But it did not sound like that was in the works for now. I know everybody is seeing what Seaver King is doing at AAA. He's tearing it up. So is Trey Lipscomb, by the way. We have not talked about him at all. So there are certainly some worthy infielders at AAA who could be on standby and be called up if they needed to make a move. But I did not get the impression Thursday night that anything is in the works in that regard.
By the way, speaking of Nationals shortstop prospects, Baseball America has updated its prospect rankings. Baseball America has 4 of the Nationals' top 5 prospects as shortstops. Baseball America has the Nats having the number 7 overall farm system in baseball, but has 4 of the Nats' top 5 prospects as shortstops. Number 1, shortstop Eli Willits. Number 2, shortstop Seaver King. Number 3, starting pitcher Harleen Susana. Number 4, Devin Fitzgerald, who Baseball America lists as a second baseman / shortstop. And number 5, shortstop Ronnie Cruz. How about that? 4 of the team's top 5 prospects, shortstops for Baseball America. We talked about this. This is part of why the Nats are moving Abrams to being primarily a second baseman. But man, that is something. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
The 0-1. Fly ball lifted deep to left field. Squires back on the warning track. That one's gone as well. Seaver King homers for a 4th straight ball game. 3rd consecutive contest at Warner Park. And that balloons the score to 10-3 in favor of Rochester. The Red Wings have plated 4 runs in the top of the 7th.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. If you're using chat to research your next home improvement project, forget the prompts. We've got all the details on a company that you can trust. For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Cosgrove's 0-2. Swinging a fly ball, medium center field. Cruz angling over. He comes in, makes the catch, tagging is Duran coming home. The throw in on a bounce is not going to be in time. Duran scores standing, a big insurance run for the Rangers. They lead it 2-0. Cruz gave it his best shot from medium center field. Duran runs too well. Lopez gets it done with a sac fly.
Well, the shame of the Nats' 2-0 loss at the Rangers on Thursday night was that the Nats' pitching was good. Their starting pitcher for the game was Andrew Alvarez. He allowed 1 run in 5 innings with 5 strikeouts. Now, he put some guys on base. He does that. We've become accustomed to that. He gave up 4 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and a single. He issued 3 walks, and he did throw a lot of balls. 75 pitches, just 41 strikes, 34 balls. So the home run came in the bottom of the 3rd. A one-out opposite field solo homer by Corey Seager to left field for a 1-0 Rangers lead, despite Alvarez having had Seager down at 1.12, but Andrew Alvarez again was effective. We are used to this now. This is kind of how he does what he does. He puts some guys on base. He has to navigate his way out of trouble, but he does navigate his way out of trouble. The numbers for Alvarez at the major league level in this regular season now: 19 games, 11 starts, 3.60 ERA, 134 WHIP, 8.33 strikeouts per 9 innings. You don't love that he has to keep living like this with people on base, but he has an aptitude for working his way out of precarious situations.
And that's not such a terrible trait to have. I can think of a lot more talented pitchers with bigger arms who are not nearly as good as he is at getting out of those kind of jams and preventing innings from spiraling out of control. And so yeah, he was back to nibbling around the zone again. The last 2 starts, he was better. He only walked 1 each of the last 2 starts. This one felt more like some previous outings of his. So he did put himself in those jams, but boy, he came through when he had to with some good pitching and, some strikeouts as well. Some of those strikeouts, I'm looking at 3 of his strikeouts came with runners in scoring position. So that's a good sign as well that it's not just him, inducing weak contact, but that even when he has his back against the wall, he's able to come through and make some good quality pitches and strike guys out. So overall encouraging. I think we understand he's not going to be a frontline big league pitcher, but more and more there's evidence to suggest that he can be an effective big league pitcher. You combine what he's done this year now with the September starts last year, the numbers are good. At some point, you'd say this is who he is. Again, I don't know that he's a big part of the long-term plan, but if he's in the running for their 4th or 5th starter in the short term here for the rest of this year and going into next year, there's nothing wrong with that. They need all the pitching help they can get. They're not in a position to give up on anybody who's got an ERA that starts with a 3, and that's what Andrew Alvarez has.
Yeah, I mean, if I say to you, who has been the Nats' 3rd best starting pitcher this season? Cade Cavalli and Foster Griffin are numbers 1 and 2 in whatever order you want to put them in. And then if I say to you, who has been number 3? Now, it's not like there are a ton of, overwhelming contenders here. Understood, right? Jake Irvin has struggled. Zach Littell struggled. Miles Michael has struggled. But Andrew Alvarez has been the Nats' 3rd best starting pitcher. And, you think about the opening day rotation for 2027, assuming we have an opening day. I think we will. Andrew Alvarez, I would think right now it's more likely than unlikely that he is in that rotation. Now, is he in the rotation for the duration of the season? Hard to say. But like you said, the Nats don't have many obvious, viable major league starting pitching options right now. Even if the team does do some things this offseason in terms of acquiring legitimate starting pitching, you still need 5 rotation spots to be filled. I would think Andrew Alvarez right now has a decent shot, if not a good shot, of being in the Nats opening day rotation for next season.
Yeah, and he's left-handed and he's still cheap because he's not even arbitration eligible yet. And those are qualities that any general manager would love to have. Connolly Early, we believe, should be a part of that as well, but he's got to prove that he's healthy first before any of that. Josiah Gray, who we didn't talk about the other day, he did finally pitch in a rehab game. It was only 1 inning for Fredericksburg, but came out of that feeling really good about himself. And I know you asked me maybe a week ago or so, like, is there anything going on with him? So good sign that he's not going to be joining their rotation, but maybe there's a shot that he could be pitching in the big leagues out of the bullpen before the season's over. That would be fantastic. And who knows what that means for the future. But yeah, what Alvarez has done, whether you do really believe in him in the long run or not, if you think that the stuff is going to be good enough to be successful in the long run or not, right now it is good enough for this team because they do not have major league ready quality starting pitching. And so there's certainly a case to be made that he's more deserving of making the opening day rotation next year than, say, a Jake Irvin, who has more experience and is probably treated as more of a sure thing, but the performance doesn't stack up. Alvarez has been better.
By the way, with Gray, first of all, it would be awesome if he pitched out of the bullpen for the Nats at the major league level before the end of this season. But even if he is healthy going into opening day next season, people may forget this. The Nats optioned him to the minors prior to him getting injured. The idea was that he was going to start the regular season in the minors and then eventually make his way to the majors. We would think that that would be the plan for 2027 if he's healthy, would we not?
Potentially. I mean, that was done because they didn't think he was fully ready, that he was still kind of working his way back after all this time, and they didn't want to throw him onto a big league field right away. And so let him make some starts at AAA. And then the idea, I think, was that you'd probably see him pretty soon. Well, fell apart after he was optioned. He threw 1 time in spring training in a minor league game, and that's when the injuries cropped up again. So I think the more interesting question with him is going to be, would they consider a switch to a relief role for him? Is there any reason to think that that might help him stay healthy better? I don't think they're there. Right. I think right now it's like season only has 6 weeks left. Get what you can out of him, and maybe that means he could pitch out of the bullpen for you. I think they would still ideally like to try to work him as a starter in the future. I know he would like to do that, but maybe there's a chance that his arm at this point is just better suited in smaller chunks as a reliever. We'll see. Long way to go. Like, he's got a lot more steps to take before they can determine any of this stuff. But for now, just good that he does appear to be healthy and pitched in a competitive minor league game and came out of it feeling well.
I mean, they gave us chances, and like I said, we went down tonight with using some of our best arms, and thought Rebalta and Beeter did a nice job of keeping the game where it was and facing some of their best hitters too, right?
Well, the Nats relief pitching on Thursday night was good. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Orlando Rebalta scoreless bottom of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Clayton Beeter scoreless and hitless bottom of the 7th. Tom Cosgrove allowed 1 run in 1 inning. Bottom of the 8th, gave up a 1-out opposite field triple by Ezekiel Duran on an 0-2 pitch on a ball that went over right fielder Dalen Lyle as he made a leaping backhanded attempt at a catch. Look, Lyle has been a lot better defensively, so, I don't want to hammer him for that. That was a rough play, but overall, he has demonstrated significant defensive improvement. If you go by outs above average per StatCast, Lyle for last season -8 outs above average as an outfielder. Lyle for this season, as of games through Wednesday, +2 outs above average as an outfielder. So don't just want to bring up when he struggles. I mean, he overall is doing better. But interesting with the reliever deployment in this game, Rebalta and Beeter, in theory, the Nats' top 2 relievers being utilized over the 6th and 7th innings, and then manager Blake Butera going to Tom Cosgrove in the 8th. It didn't feel like it, but this was a close game. This was a competitive game, and Blake Butera opting, and I think appropriately, to use his best relievers earlier in the game as opposed to saving them for the later innings.
So he did this in New York last weekend, pitched the 7th and the 8th, and that was the game that then they tried to have Giovanni Cruz close it out in the 9th, and we knew that turned into a disaster. But Butera, I think, does believe in this concept now of making sure that his 2 best guys aren't wasting away in the bullpen and never used in a close game. So he would rather try to use them earlier, in this case the 6th and the 7th, keeping the game close, hoping his offense can then do something and then figure out who's going to pitch the later innings after that. Now, they were down, so it didn't really matter in the end. It would have been fascinating, though, if they had somehow mounted a rally in the 8th or the 9th and tied it or taken the lead. Who's going to pitch the bottom of the 9th for them? Cruz is now at AAA. The others in that bullpen are not established big league relievers for the most part. I don't know what they would have done. And one of these days, the situation is going to come up and we'll see how that goes. So I understand the concept of wanting to make sure you use Rebalta and Beeter, and so you go to them earlier. But somebody still has to pitch the 9th inning. If you're ever going to win a game, somebody else has to close it out. I don't know who out of this current group I would trust to do that.
No, I do believe, though, you have to use your best guys. We used to have this conversation with Kyle Finnegan, how, he was the Nats' best reliever, and there would be times when he wouldn't pitch for like 5, 6, 7 days because the quote-unquote save opportunities were not arising. And it was like, well, if he's your best guy, use him. Make it a point to use him. So, I do applaud Butera for using Rebalta and Beeter, but, it's all relative. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know that anyone in this bullpen is really that good, but if you have to pick, the 2 best guys, you probably are looking at Rebalta and Beeter. Certainly the 2 best healthy relievers. Remember, PJ Poulin does remain out. Speaking of relievers, so next up for the Nats is a 3-game series at the Miami Marlins. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1, Friday night at 7:10, Brad Lord. Game 2, Saturday afternoon at 4:10, Jake Irvin. Game 3, Sunday afternoon at 1:40, Jackson Kent. The Marlins are not a great offensive team, and the Marlins have been so streaky this season. The Marlins are 500, 64-64. How they have gotten to 64-64 is actually really interesting. It's like one lengthy streak after another. Up and down have been the Marlins. But this could be an ugly series from a Nats pitching standpoint, okay? Lord, Irvin, Kent. And specific to Lord, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he does on Friday night off his debacle of an outing this past Saturday.
Yeah, remember the plan was that they were going to try to build him up to like 4 innings and that start ultimately getting back into a full starters mode, and he didn't get out of the first. So it's a very important start for him. He flew ahead of the team. They had this getaway night game in Texas, which is not good for anybody's sleep, but as teams would do in those cases, you send your next day starting pitcher in advance. So he flew out earlier in the afternoon. So he'll be well rested for that. They need him to be good. He needs to be good. If this is really their plan to try to turn him back into a starter again, he's got to provide some length. He's got to start to build himself back up. I would guess that we'll also see Will Dion following him in some capacity like they did in New York. Now, Dion came in way earlier than planned and was very good. Maybe this could turn into a piggyback situation with the two of them, and you have two guys, a righty and a lefty, who can combine to give you some real length, like 7 innings between them. We'll see. That's asking for a lot, but I think that's the intention right now. It's an important start for Lord, and they're going to see a lot of the Marlins here. 3 games in Miami, and then a homestand that's 4 with the Rockies and then 4 with the Marlins. So that's their next 11 games against the Colorado Rockies and Miami Marlins. Remember that homestand against the Rockies and Marlins last year that we said, oh, this is where they're going to get back on track again? Did not happen, not even close to it. So I would not predict anything in this case and try to suggest that they are going to get healthy again facing these teams. But if you did have to pick 11 games to play against competition that you would think you should have a shot at, this would be it. Does this team have it in them to actually succeed? We will find out.
Yeah, the Nats have some weird things coming up with their schedule. They have, like you just said, at the Marlins, and then all these games against the Marlins and Rockies. The second upcoming series against the Marlins is a wraparound series at Nationals Park, a Friday through Monday series, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And then after that is a 2-game series for the Nats against the Atlanta Braves at Nationals Park, the rare 2-game series for the Nats. Hey, we have a congratulations to send out. Congrats to Mark Kapuscinski. He won the Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Funds annual raffle. What did he win? A $112,000 Rivian. Congrats to Mark. That's outstanding. And thank you to our friends at the CCAN. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us too, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We get so many wonderful emails from you guys. We appreciate all of them. We read all of them. And we have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Never on coaching. Okay, coaches work their off every single day. You know, we're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches. Okay, they work hard. The message is clear. All the work is done prior. Sometimes, you know, they got to go out there and they got to play the game. You know, it's always been about the players. Always.